everyone. Happy Friday. And thank you so much for joining our class. Today we have a really fun project, which is to create these bezel settings. And it's a really versatile technique, and it's one that I use a lot for different kinds of things. Today we'll just keep it simple and put a little bail on it. And we'll use some cotton cord to go through, and you've got a really nice pendant made from a bead that is flat on the back and domed on the top. This is a flat back cabochon. And these are now at Michael's. So let me show you guys what they look like. There's a new gemstone wall, and usually there's a row of 3 up here, but I've used some of them, of flat back cabochons. So these are gemstones, and they don't have a hole. So we need to do something creative to get them set. And so what we're doing today is basically creating like a seed bead bezel setting for them. And so here on the mat, I've got one that's open that I took off of the card. And it is a so they range, but I believe they're about 20 millimeters, 20 to 22 millimeters or so. And the reason I didn't put a dimension in the handout is because I'm going to show you guys how to feel that out with the beads so that no matter what stone you're using, you can get this technique to work for it. And so for thread, I'm using Wildfire. I am going to be using size 12 beading needles today because we're going to be going through some Delicas. And so the beads you'll need, let me show the beads I used first, and then I'll show you what I was going to use today for colors. But in the design that I did here, I just was kind of trying to pull out some really gorgeous colorways by making it look like just like a silver setting. And you see what happens when you bring in the brown cord with the amazonite. This look it really popped for me. So I just matched all of my colors with a size 11 Delica, a size 10 Czech round, and this is a size 8 Czech round. And that's what I did. And so for today, because these colors would be hard to see in a demo, I was just going to swap it and work with a size 8 Czech in this turquoise color, a size 10 in this yellow, and then here's a size 11 Delica in red. So that's what I was thinking I would do today, so we can get a really good look at the structure of the stitch. And the only other material you'll want to have some, pliers to flatten your thread. That's what I use these for usually. And then some scissors to cut your thread. And then right at the end, I'm going to pull in some cotton cord. You can use any kind of cord you'd like. What I'm showing here is a 1 millimeter waxed cotton. I found it at the wall there at Michael's. Okay, so for length, cut about 60 to 70 inches or so. You won't need, as much, but you'll want to have enough to, at least like a wingspan, so you have enough to do the technique. The way it works is you end up working from the midpoint, using one side to do the back, and then using that other long side to build your dome on the front of your stone. So it seems like you're cutting a lot of thread for something so small, but it just makes it a lot easier to get that working out. Okay, and so with those pliers here, I'm gonna flatten this. I'm gonna get my keyboard tray out of the way there. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna string. Try to get this threaded. I'm going to get out the size 8s. You'll want to start with those. And I'm going to string what's called like a lengthwise peyote. It's kind of a neat way to start peyote in general, because it gives you the opportunity to not know your length yet and experiment with that, and then be able to build off of it. And so I put a needle on that. And then of course you're going to want to put a needle on both ends. I forgot to flatten my other side, so let me do that really quick. And I'm going to need one more of my needles. And I kind of folded them down with about the same amount of thread folded down there. I don't know if that's visible. Let me go ahead and move over. But see, it's got about the same amount folded over. So, I'm finding a true midpoint here. And then pick up a size 8 seed bead on each of your needles So there's a size 8 on each needle. And then I just hold the needles together, bring them down. And then what you're going to do is bring a size 8 onto both needles. Bring that down. And when you do that, what you're going to get at the bottom is the start of a little peyote stitch, segment. So it looks like that. So you got, a set of up beads and then your center bead. And I'm just going to do that a bunch of times until I have a length that fits around my stone. So here's a bead on each needle. Bring that down. And then picking up a bead on both needles. And each time you do this, if you just pull the working and tail threads apart, or both working strands, I guess you could call them, it'll help you form this shape. You'll have to help it a little bit in the first few, adds, but each time you add a layer on top, it strengthens the one below it. And don't worry too much if it spins a little bit. My peyote starts like this. They always start to spin around. I just ignore it and I just start loading them, because when we get to the next step, we're going to straighten those out, because we're going to put beads on both sides and build up in that direction on both sides. So just load them as best you can. And I think I was trying to experiment with what's fastest, but I found that just go ahead and loading one on each needle and then treating both needles together for the other one was the fastest way to do it. And I'm just bringing those down, pull it apart. All right, and so I'm just going to go a little bit fast. Off camera, what I usually do when I'm working these just on my own is I just pull both of my arms apart, in a wingspan motion. And so what'll happen when I do that is it'll come off of the mat, but it's quicker. So just pulling these apart here. And then what you can see is everything just pops. And these are a size 8 seed bead that I'm using here. I should leave the tubes where you can see them. I like to put the tubes on the screen, but unfortunately, I sometimes catch them with my thread. Happens a lot, but there's the, and it goes surprisingly quick. Those first few ones are taking me a while, but it gets faster. I also think it just gets easier too. Those first few, I had to use some really tight tension for, but these I don't have to. And it's nowhere near being ready to go around the stone, but how I'm going to measure it when I do is just, we're almost to the halfway point there. And I want to show you this so that you can see, what our goal is for how tight to make it. Because sometimes with a lot of these bezel settings, depending on how you're starting it, you may or may not want to make it tight at the beginning. Because when you add the dome and the flat on the back, it gets smaller, it cinches it up a little bit. So I'm going to show you what I go for when sizing them at this stage. Just to get them to fit just right. Almost there. Yeah, see, that takes longer than picking it up with both needles. I'm going to do it the other way next time. Because I'm right-handed, so for me, this is a lot easier. And I've tried loading more than one set. It didn't get a great result with it getting, with it stacking properly, so I do it one at a time now. But I have tried adding them individually, ends up, together. And for example, adding more than one of these segments at a time, you just don't get the tension that I feel like I need to get this to sit right. But that said, if you want to try it, you can. Thread caught on the end there. Go. So how are we doing? Let's take a look. We're just coming around. And what'll happen when you join this is the side. So what ends up becoming the side is actually this bead right here. But it's hard to visualize when you're looking at it kind of flat like this.
Hey, Danielle.
Hey.
I wanted to say hello to you from the sidebar. I think we all went into momentarily shock when you showed us how easy it was to do. So people are really thanking you for this great tip of doing this so quickly. So you're good, and there are no questions right now.
Oh, good. Yeah, and this part is the only part that really takes any time at all. The rest of it, I feel like it's pretty quick. I do have some samples worked ahead, so we won't have to, build the entire thing. I kind of did a little skip ahead on the back of it, but I will show you guys when we get there. But in total, just for estimation purposes, a couple of these I made in under an hour. I think I can make one in like 40 minutes or less. And that was probably, stopping to do stuff along the way. So it really is a fast project. It doesn't take too long. So how are we doing here? I'm looking at it and I'm thinking 2 more, maybe 3. We'll test it out. So I keep forgetting to join my needles. There we go. Yeah, I was thinking it might be possible for me to just work start to finish one of these, but just in case we need that extra time, I do have a sample that's like at its halfway point. Okay, so there's 2. Let's see what 2 looks like. Bring that in there. And I also think it's good for you guys to see how wonky it is. It's definitely, it doesn't start looking like amazing until you get to adding the 10s, really, which is one of the last steps. I'm trying to decide if that will be too tight or not and compare it to my other one. Here's one where the Delicas are in it. Let's look at it. Yeah, I think that's going to work fine. Okay, so here we're going to join this. So now you've got this long, I'm going to get rid of my 8s really quick. We don't need those anymore. Those. So what we have here is basically a peyote stitch as you would recognize like even count. And what happens when you connect them like that is it looks just like the ones above it. So what we really need to do is just join them so they're one ring. So what I'm going to do is fold it so that I want to make it so that it's really easy to see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this strand and I'm going to go through this bead and make a turn. And I'm going to do the same thing with this strand, but I'm going to go through the other bead and make a turn. So here's this one going through here. And here's my other strand here. Bring it up through the opposite one. And so holding it up close, this is what you get. You can see these guys are connecting here. Oops, sorry about that. And so now when I loop around, that'll just tighten itself right up. So coming out of this side, I want to turn and go through this one. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to go through that bead there. Set that aside for now. Switching over to this one. My needle's hanging out somewhere here. So turning again to go through the adjacent bead. And just continuing on to the one that's next in the series there. and pull those apart to tighten everything up. And now you've got this little ring of size 8 seed beads. That's going to be our base. And that's all there is to it. And it's spinning. Don't worry about the spin yet because we can fix that. We'll just make a choice as we get there, which one's up and which one's down, and we'll stitch into it and it'll hold itself in place. But right now it's probably going to be spinning for you too. Mine is totally spinning. Okay, so now we want to get from this to this. And to do that, we're going to create the back first. The back looks like this in the silver version. And the reason I'm using Delicas on the back is it tends to just kind of flatten itself. And that's what we want. We want it to go flat for the back of that stone, hold it. And then the 10s on top, they really lended themselves nicely to make it taper down into a dome. And so we're going to come along and do that last with these. So here's how to get those Delicas in there. I'll set that aside for now. I think I'll do the first row and show the step up and start the second row, and then I'll switch to that one that's ahead unless anyone has any questions about the Delica adding. But from where we are here, we're exiting from one of these center beads. We need to move to an up bead. It doesn't matter which needle you choose, just choose one and make that, that will become the one that is the back. And then you'll want to pick up a Delica and go through your next up bead. So just like even count peyote stitch, right? We're going to go through our next up bead, which is this one here. When you go through that, your Delica is going to sit in between those two up beads. I'm going to do that all the way around. And when I get to places where it's spinning, I'm just going to pick a side, any side, right? And then that will basically straighten out that problem. There's 3. And this will only take a minute, so we'll just keep going around. And something else to note, I'm not working around my stone right now because I'm just doing the back. And it's not going to start to look like a bowl shape at this step. It's going to look flat. Our 3-dimensional stuff starts to happen. Once you get the stone in and you force that dome on the top, then it kind of forces this part to flatten even more. And I'll show you guys that when we get there. See, I'm just going around. Oops, there we go. And the tricky part for me is just not getting tangled with my other thread that's there. And you could, oh yeah, go ahead.
I know we have some new people, so I've been letting them know that a Delica bead is different in many ways from a regular Czech seed bead. So would you mind, could you go a little bit closer to the camera so that they can see a Delica bead?
Yeah, and there's a Delica relative to the size of a size 8 seed bead.
Thank you.
They're really tiny, but they're size-wise, just to give you a frame of reference, they are smidgen smaller than a Czech 10 round, but I believe they are slightly larger than a Czech 11. I just found that when I've been working with them that they also have a really generous hole diameter. So you can usually get multiple passes through them, especially if you're using a size 12 needle like we're doing here. But the size 12 needle came in handy. I'm about to show you a step where I decided 12s were a must, because you could use a size 10 beading needle right up until you get to the spot where I am right now. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I just finished that first circle. I got all of those delicas inside of my up bead. I'm still leaving this aside. This is going to become my top dome. So this is the other thread. Just try to ignore that thread. It's confusing. But I just added my last bead. And now what I need to do is step up. And you guys have seen us do this in a lot, in a lot of bead weaving stitches where we're doing something in the round and you finish your first row. And to get to the next one, you got to go back through the first bead that you added in that step. So I got to go up through this one here. And now what I want to do is put a Delica in between every Delica bead. Those have now become my up beads. And yeah, let's see, I'll show you guys this tube. So Miyuki is the company in Japan that makes the Delica. And these are the ones at Michael's. These are the vials you want to look for. They're really nice. I love them. And so we're exiting from, this was the first Miyuki Delica that we added in ring one. And now I've picked up a new one and I'm going to go through the next one. And this is where the 12 helps. For some reason, because that bead, it tucks in so perfectly with the 8 next to it, there's a height challenge with getting your needle through it. And so if you encounter that, just know that you're not alone and it is possible, but I did struggle with it just a little bit and it slows you down a little, but you get your next Delica and go through the next one. It's just a little tight. That's really the only challenge. And the other thing to be careful of is not skipping any. And I did that twice and I still don't know how I did it when I was working my samples earlier. But if you're going fast, and especially if you're like an experienced beater, I feel like you're more likely to do it than if you're new, because you start going fast, right? And then I did it a bunch of times actually, and caught it early several of the times, and then once I got all the way around, and then was working the row after that before I noticed it. So I had to pull out like the entire thing. And so what's going to happen now is you start to pull. When you start pulling tight, you're going to get this stuff going on. You see how it's kind of, I would say don't worry about it too much, but try not to train it to stay. If you want to do something to help yourself later, train it to go down on all sides without worrying too much about it. Just give it a little bit of a, I don't know, putting some memory into it, I guess. Oops. And so this is all I would have to do. So we're doing okay on time, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going all the way around. And when I get back to here, I would go through this first bead, right? Which is the first one we added, and step up, right? So you have to step up when you get all the way around here. Does anyone have any questions about step ups? I can keep going if you do.
I think you're good, Danielle. As long as you demo it, it makes sense.
So I could skip ahead at this point. I have this one ready to go. This is what you want to do is you want to put 3 of these rows of Delicas. So here's what it would look like when you've got 3. And to do that, you just keep going. So, I've exited from that one, going to the next one. And so you see what would happen when you get around here, you'd step up and then you'd put a bead in between each one of those. And the result you'd get would be, it'll look just like that. So to save time, I'm going to go ahead and just jump ahead just so I can make sure that I have time to show you guys the bail. But let me know if there's any questions about that section. It's that same thing I was doing over and over again for basically for the rest of that round and for one more round in that ring. Okay, and so what you're seeing here is that finished. And so this is the thread that I finished that with on the inside. And you can weave it in now, or what I actually do is I just leave it for later. I just kind of go through a few more beads, but I leave it for later in case I want to tighten that up after I've got my stone in it. So it's in the way and it's kind of a pain, but having it there until the end can sometimes be helpful if you want to do any adjustments at the end. So I'm leaving that one alone for now, and I'm switching to my other strand. And I've woven to where I'm exiting from an up bead. And I'm going to bring out some size 10 rounds and the stone. I need the stone to come back. So for like the first half of this, like we'll do a crescent moon without the stone in it. And then we'll put the stone in. And a couple things that helps us do is it gives us some tension. It's like a little tension aid, right? And then at a certain point, it will actually, the stone won't be able to come back out. You won't be able to get it back in. So and I'll show you where that is. So we're just going to go through this. We're just adding a size 10 in between each of these up beads, our size 8 up beads. And I think I'm going to move my tail from my other side over there. There we go. And I want to show this from start to finish, and this is going to take us a little bit of time, but it's the part you want to see, right? Because that's where it goes from being really wonky looking to being really cool looking. Okay. So we're starting to get that bowl. I don't know if you guys can see this, but you see it's already starting to kind of curl. Keep going until I get about halfway there. And go ahead and give it a, some tension. I'm pulling a little bit hard. I'm also still being careful that I don't skip any beads. There we go. All right. Let's see how I'm doing. Get my stone in there. Okay. Now I'm going to leave it here and kind of push down on it while I add the rest of them. And you can either push down on your mat or you can pick it up and hold it. I think I actually hold it, but the mat helps you see it better, I think. So we'll do a little of both. And at this point, it can still come out. Okay, so this is my last bead of ring 1 with the 10s, the size 10 check. And I'm just starting to get that shape. And just real quick, let's do a quick check, make sure I didn't skip a bead anywhere. Okay, and so exiting from that last 8, right here, we're going to step up through the 10 that we added first in that round. So that's this one right here. Oops. Or I'm just going to pull the needle. Okay, I'll show that again. So exiting from that 8. And just go up through there. Here we go. Another chance to tighten it up too. Stone back in there. And now I do want to keep that stone in place, even if it's awkward at the first couple of steps, but it's really helpful from here on out. So here's my next 10. I'm going to start round 2 just by going through the next one. It's going to move around. But I wanted to show this because, when I'm making these, this is the spot where I always get nervous. I'm like, oh, did I get it right size-wise? Is it going to fit my stone? And it's kind of confidence breaking, right? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to go, but something happens between here and the next row and you'll see it. Okay.
Danielle, someone pointed out, it looks like you're making a little hat for your cabochon.
Yeah, exactly. It's just almost like, like a prom setting. Or like if there's metalsmiths out there when you've got the little burnisher tool and you're kind of flattening the edge of your bezel around.
So it was noticed you switched to a 10-0. If they have their Delicas out, would you do this with the Delicas?
I tried it, and what I found, with the disclaimer that the stones are not all the same, even in this pack. If you look at the height of some of my domes, this stone's even taller than the one next to it, just slightly. Here's one that's really flat. So your dome size is going to make a huge difference. I had the most luck with 10s. The Delicas were too aggressively flattening over the top. And it would have worked, but I would have had to do an additional row in most of those cases. And if you do another row, you know, you're covering up more of your stone than you might want to, because you want to see the beautiful stone, right? You don't want to like completely cover it. Although I love seed beads, so not totally minding that. But 3 rows of 10s is going to bring you all the way up that high. An additional row you'd have a peekaboo view of the stone there. So it's actually just preference, but these domed better than the Delicas did. See, the Delicas are going to do this to you. They're going to go flat like that, even if you had a domed shape.
Perfect tip, Danielle, and it answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, you can try it, but you'll know if you have it wrong. Like, for example, if you want to try Delicas here, you'll start to see thread gaps if it's not working out with your dome height. You'll get more thread gaps, and no matter how pull tight you do, you'll still get like a little thread visible. But unfortunately, if I wish I had a real solid answer, but it's mostly just experimentation, trying it with your stone and just seeing what happens. But so these 10s that I'm using now, and this technique and these counts and whatnot, counts as in, you know, 3 rows of 10s and that starting band of 8, worked really great with all of the cabs that I found at Michael's. And this will work on the ovals too. It's a little more advanced tension wise to get it to form into an oval, but it will work just fine. You're just going to be, you know, I'm going to borrow a word from Meredith. You're going to be zhuzhing it more. You're going to be having to encourage the beads to take that shape, but they will do it, and you won't have to change your stitch pattern to fit the oval. It'll work fine. It's just, you know, slightly less beginner, but totally doable. So I'm going through, and now I would not want to pull my stone out at this point. Here's 2 rows, but I don't think it's secure enough to call it done. But it's good, you know, it's solid in there. And now the rest of our steps are really easy because there's nothing moving anymore. It's staying put. And that just makes it so much easier to stitch on it. So if you made it this far, you've done all of the hard parts, and now it's just fun. So let's see, I've gone through, I've exited from this bead, which was my round 1. This was my last bead added in round 2. This one here, right? Went through that. I need to step up, right? And I almost forgot to do that. So here's my step up bead. That's the first bead I added in round 2. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just picking up a new 10. Go through my next up bead. And it's going to start to look so pretty. It's going to just like curl over it. You could do this in different colors if you wanted to, and just try all kinds of ideas. That it's really limitless, and there's a lot of really great colors. I think it looks good even with like you know, a mix of colors like we've done here. I did this for demo purposes, but I actually really like it. Bring that down. All right, it's coming along. It's just going and going. And I actually really love creating these because they look so neat. And I think when people see them, there's some wow factor there, right? But now you've seen it's so easy. I do love a project that's easy, but just looks amazing.
Lori thinks your stone has a winter sweater now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. These bright colors, these are our Zoom colors because they're so easy to see and they stand out really nice from each other. So they've become my palette. Let's go through. This is where I'm glad I have a 12 again because it's, this is a little bit tight and I'm doing a bunch of stuff to kind of make the needle go through where I want it to. Okay, I think we are almost there. And I just continued through my step up. Last bead there, and then I stepped up automatically. The needle wanted to do it, so I went with it. And that's that. That's totally set. It's really secure. Here's the back. And we can decide how we feel about the back now that we've got it all set. If you wanted to, you can make another row back here. What I found when I tried though, was take a really good look at how close some of these Delicas are to each other. It was kind of tight to get them to lay flat with another row inside. Because like, for example, look right here. You see how getting a Delica to fit there maybe, but then, so I stopped with 3 for that reason because it started to pucker. So I hope that makes sense. So I'm happy with how that looks. I'm going to weave in. And just get rid of this strand. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to see which one of my strands here is longer. They're probably about the same, but whichever one is longer happens to be my top one. I'm going to set it aside and keep it and use that for the veil. But very quickly, let's just get this one out of the way. And again, I don't knot. You could if you wanted to. If you wanted to do like a little half-inch knot somewhere, you can. But another thing you could do is just change direction. And that's what I'm doing here. I just turned. And just going through, following my thread path wherever my needle wants to go. Not really worrying too much about where it's going, just as long as it's on the path and it's not going to stand out. Just wherever I can get it. If it goes through 2, like see how mine just went through 2. And just come back through that last one. It's pretty tight. It's already starting to seem like it's good. So I might just go ahead and trim it. I would spend more time on it if, if this was one that I was going to sell or something, I would really weave it in pretty good, but I feel like this is okay for our purposes here. I'm just trimming that with some tension. All right, there we go, flipping it over. And if at this point you had somewhere you want to be the top, on this stone, I don't feel like there's a top or a bottom. I feel like we're good here. But on this one, I felt really strongly that I wanted it to be kind of like, I don't know, a little planetary there. And then I wanted the color at the bottom. So I did kind of focus on weaving around, but in this case, I like where I'm at here. So I'm just gonna weave up. I wanna go to the center of our 8s. So the 8s that we did in the very beginning. I'm just going through. Okay, I'm gonna bring my 8s back. All the way there. Again, these are my 8s. This goes really quick. You'll be so surprised how fun. I'm exiting from one of the center 8s that we did in our first band. And I'm going to treat the next one. So skipping these 2, right? Just in peyote stitch, we skip a bead and go to the next one. We're going to skip these and then we're going to go through that bead. I've got an 8 on the needle here. So skipping those 2 and going through this one. And so it's just going to kind of sit there. It's going to hang out. Don't worry too much about it yet. Pick up another one. And again, skip 2. Go through that middle next one there. Okay. And now I've got these 2 beads. They're just hanging out there. pick up another 8 and turn and come back through that last one you just added. I'm going to pull on my old, exiting point there to get it to make sure it stays tight. I'm picking up another 8. I'm going to go through that first 8 we did. There's that. Turning again. So let's pick up an 8, go back through this bead. I'm going to pull tight on this one again because it's getting loose. There we go. And try to select for, I am trying to select for the same width of my bead. If you get a gap like that, you see how I've got this little gap here? Come back to this one and pull on it. And then hold that and pull here. And it should tighten it up. And if it doesn't, just do it again. Get a little tighter there. And we can also reinforce that at the end too, if we want to. So this is just even count peyote stitch with just 2 columns. And we're going to make 10 rows for the bail. And so when I count my peyote rows, I go from diagonal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're working on row 6 now. Here's row 6, all done. I'm just going to go a little faster. Here's 7. And you could do this with 10s if you wanted. If you don't like the really thick look of the bail being with the 8s, you could use your 10s and it would look cute. I think you could use the Delicas too. They're a little tiny at the start, but it works. I think that was 9. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need one more. All right, so there's my 10. So I got this like tab of, beads. And again, if you wanted to do this with 10s or Delicas, you can try it and see. It might look really cool. Fold it over. And you, if you've taken the class where we did a peyote ring, what I'm going to do now is the same thing. I'm going to fold it over like this. And I'm going to join it basically to itself in the back. And if you get to this point and you're folding it over, so let me look at my other sample here. If you feel like you want to add another row, you can. This worked out good. It feels tighter with the blue ones than it did with my silver ones. I'm using the count of 10, but I still feel like it's good. So we'll fold that over. When you look at the structure and you see how they kind of fit together, how they can fit together like that, that's what I'm going to try to do. It's a zipper stitch. And to zipper stitch shut something, you'd want to go through the next up bead. So I'd want to go through this one here. And it's really tight, so bear with me. I'm going to try to get my needle to do what I want, but I might have to back out. See, it went through 2. I'm just going to back out this way. It's really tight, so that's where the 12 is super handy. Okay, so now I just got it through this one right here. I went through this one. It's the last one before we start our Delica row. And what happens when I pull is it's going to tighten up. But I'm going to let it be loose so I can show you what I'm doing because I want it to make sense. I want to show you what this is like slip stitching. The zipper stitch is just like a slip stitch. So I'm going to go through the up bead, right? The next up bead here. Go through it. And so you see I've got this like, those are going to join. And now I want to go through this one. Right there. I'm not going to pull all the way. I want you guys to be able to see it. good. That was on top. Okay, so you see how it's zippering? And when I pull tight, they come down. Then I want to go back up here through this other up bead. And what I'm going to do then is come down through this next one here. Yay. Okay, I got it through there. And so I left that loose so you could see the thread path really was what I wanted to show. I hope that is helpful. And I'm going to try to pull it tight now. It worked for me earlier, so I'm going to see again about doing that. Just you watch these guys join. To get that last one, I'm going to have to. Here we go. See, it just joined right to it, just like if you were peyote stitching in that direction. And so you've got that veil there. And you can also experiment with placement. If you wanted to start it higher up, like on these 8s, you could do that and then join it in the middle. It just depends where you would like your veil to look. I liked the look of it like this, where it's kind of hanging off the back a little bit. But you could, you know, I hope it makes sense what I'm saying, but you could move it up one if you liked that better. But when it's on, when I'm wearing one of these, I felt like this made more sense. Because it just, you know, it showed more of the, so just totally up to you what you like, and you can try different ideas. You'll need to reinforce what we just did there. So there's a little bit of annoying weaving around that has to happen in order to get back that direction. But I think the best way to do it is to use the Delicas because the hole diameters are so kind to get through. So what I did is I exited from that 8 and I turned and went through my Delica. I'm going to go to the next one here. And I'm just traveling right now. I'm just trying to get over here. There we go. There's also a gap there that I didn't like, so I'm just fixing my gap a little bit. How are we doing? We're doing good on time. I was hoping to show how to bring the little cord through it, so I think we can do that. And I'm just having a hard time getting through this bead without getting through the 8, so try to do that. Actually, what I might do is turn here, because from where I am here, and I know it's tiny, I'm exiting from this Delica right here. I'm gonna turn and just go through this 8. If it will let me, I'm hoping it'll let me. There we go. And it kind of caught the Delica that's in the thread path next. I'm okay with that. From here. So yeah, all I'm doing here is just reinforcing, also weaving in. I might actually turn and go this way. From there, give myself another little stabilizing point there. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. You're just, as long as you're following your thread path and just taking that opportunity to strengthen it while I weave in. Let's see if it'll let me go here. I felt like this was loose on this side. There we go.
Danielle, while I'm watching you, I think I'm getting a lot of ideas like everybody else. And I'm realizing this might be a great way to use a vintage button and not have to take off the shank.
Yeah, it would just be back here. And you could even, I mean, if some of the back of those check buttons, the glass buttons are so pretty, like there's color, it's nice not to cover it up. But if you had one where you weren't excited about the back, you could just put a little piece of felt under.
Exactly.
That would be cute. So does anyone have any questions about weaving in? I'm going through a lot of that. I mean, it's tight and you're gonna, you know, be challenged by it, but it's possible. It just, it takes a little bit of patience and a once you're happy with where it's woven in and you've done all the reinforcing you like, you can go ahead and just trim it by pushing down, pull up with scissors, use a burner if you've got one. And you'll have a little setting. And so anything you like for finishing it is great. Also, if that bail was challenging or, just you don't like the look of it, you could just make a loop of beads. You could just make a loop coming up out of one of these center ones, string like 6/10s, skip these and go through the next one. And you just have a little loop. And then you could just put a bail or a jump ring. You could use one of those pinch bails, if you just put a tiny little loop of seed beads. So this was just a way to make it, a little extra something, but you don't have to do that. You can do anything you like. And then for the cord, if you like the look of this was just easy to get through. And I did an adjustable knot. It's got an extra knot in it right now because I was displaying it. Let me take that out really quick. And we've done this before in a couple classes, but these are just some little slider knots. So you can make them tighter or looser if you want to. And they're pretty easy to do. They're easier to do if you have like a cocktail straw. I think I forgot to bring one up, so I will have to do it manually, but a really nice way to finish it. So let me try to, oops, let me hit the camera. Here we go. I'm gonna go through my bail here. And just cut a good length of cord there. And take each end, cross it over. So you have them crossing each other like that. And then just choose one side first. And start to coil it around the other. I'm working toward my, toward my left. This is my right hand. I'm working toward my left hand. And this is a lot easier if you put like a straw inside of it, but I'm just doing it the hard way. And so I'm going to take that cord and I'm going to put it back through those coils and pull it tight. And so there's my little slidey knot, side one. Sorry, my camera's not focusing very well on that. But you can see when you pull tight it, there we go, that's better. And now it moves, right? I can slide it all around. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but before I do it, I'm just going to look at length of this one. Let's kind of sort of try to match it over here. There we go. Okay, same thing I did before with the other side, with this other tail. Just kind of wrap it around once. It doesn't matter how many coils you do. I tend to do 3, but you could do more or less if you want. Come through it. Make sure you go through all of them. I'm skipping one there. Okay. Try to pull tighter than that. One of my coils didn't settle on top of the other one, but I think it'll still slide. Yeah, it slides fine. It's not as pretty as the side, but it works. So you get your little slider knot on both sides. So then if somebody's putting it on and they want to tighten or loosen it, they just hold these two on their side of their, like you'd be holding this behind your neck sort of, and you would just pull it tighter until you got the length you wanted. And then when you wanted to take it off, you just pull this way. So really fun. And then of course do a little knot down here so that, it looks cute and you can put a little bead on it if you want to, but it doesn't come loose. So yeah.
Danielle, quick question. For that cord that you just made, you cut the cord necklace length and then you added what, about 12 more inches to make the slider?
Oh yeah, so this one I actually cut much less than I normally would because I was trying to stay in field on my camera. On this one, I cut the length I wanted, plus a good, I don't know, maybe even 18 inches because I trimmed my ends. You don't see that here, okay. But I needed something to work with. And I wanted this to be at its biggest point, I wanted it to be closer to something like 28 inches.
And Danielle, are you using cotton waxed cord, or what were you using? Leather?
No, this is just waxed cotton cord, 1 millimeter. I think this will work fine with other millimeter sizes. You can go up or down, but this was just a little, actually, forgive me, it actually is a 0.5 millimeter, not a 1. I had that wrong, guys. Sorry about that. It's right in the handout there. I was working with something 1 millimeter earlier and I just transposed it in my head. So yeah, this is the 0.5. They have both sizes at Michael's. You'll be able to find either one and just try it. They're both going to go through your bail, no problem. I got a 1 millimeter cord through a bail that was exactly the same size just earlier, and it was fine.
That's amazing, Danielle. You are right on time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was nervous for this one because it's one of those ones that you can do in an hour, but only maybe. So yeah, we did it. Yay. So let's see. I could show the next classes we have coming up. Would that be?
You've got a minute. You might as well show it.
Okay, so next week is one of our workshops. So these are the premium classes. So you have to go to the place where it says cutting edge classes and sign up there. This is an edging class, and what I'm hoping to do for next week is to have already samples that show a little bit more of them, so you know they can be displayed better. But I went through and just came up with a million different edging ideas, and I diagrammed them all out. So any type of stitching that you have where the beads are open on the side will work for all of these edges. So that would be loom, peyote, flat chenille, and any other kind of stitch like square where your open side of the bead is on the side of your work. You can do any of these stitches for that. And then the week after that, we're gonna just try these gemstone donuts out. So this is a class where we're building on knowledge that we established in a class from before. We did a herringbone rope. We did one in February. When was that? I put a link to it in the actual handout for this class. So you can actually link to not only the handout, but the video. So when you download this one, you'll find that. And this is one of our regular 1-hour classes. So to take it up a notch from what we already did, I added a little spiraling of hematite that I thought would be cool. And then I'm going to show how to use it to attach to things. So you can take a herringbone rope and do a little loop-de-loo. This is a really easy technique, and it has a lot of other applications, you know, that go beyond what we're doing here. So this is a really fun one. You'll want to tune in for that. Let's see, what else do I have going here on my mat? Got this is the one after that. This is seed beads, seed bead clasps. So a lot of times you get to the end of your work and you're looking for a clasp, but you know what would be the perfect one to use? Well, how cool just to make your own from the exact matching seed beads that you did your design with. So I will recap how this was made. It's something we've done before. And there is another class you can look at for how we did this. We did it with crystal, but same exact step. I added a little embellishment on the side, but I'll go over that. And then I'll show how I attached this and created a little, you know, seed beaded toggle. Super fun. So that's the rest of those. And then hopefully I can have November to show for next time. And no, that one was not a premium. So the only premium one was all about edging. So the premium one was the edging class, but donut and seed beaded clasps are our free 1-hour regular Friday time, and they're in the regular place where you go to register. Yeah. So Carmi, are there any other things I should cover or any questions that came up?
No, I think that's great. And I just want to be the first one to say that you were right. I was wrong. I didn't believe that you could teach the bezel and the clasp in the same class. And you did manage to do it. I think our regulars are laughing at me because I was like, there's no way, it's a 2-hour class. But you did it beautifully. There aren't any questions. And I really look forward to people posting their samples and finished pieces.
Me too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I think I agree with you. It could have been 2 hours. I would have had more time to cover the extra stuff that I didn't do. So totally, like two hours would have been a better estimate. I agree with that. So totally. All right. I just want to wish everyone a happy weekend, happy beading, creativity, and looking forward to seeing what you post. Thank you. Have a great weekend.